I never thought I'd end up going to Miss Universe, for example. That's how I was looped into the Miss Universe world. So I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't even know that we
Let's
participated.
talk about it. How did that happen, Noor? I mean, because growing up in Pakistan and, we've kind of always had this a perception of what Miss Universe is, and then B, it's the idea that no, that's something that we don't do, So let's just start with what it is. What is Miss Universe?
Miss Universe is it's a huge honor for me to have been the woman to represent Pakistan, because I finally got to truly claim my identity as a national.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Pakistan Observer podcast. मेरा नाम अब्दुल्ला मलिक है और मेरे साथ आज मौजूद हैं Noor Xarmina. Noor, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Pakistan Observer.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Noor, you've done so much at a rather young age, if I may say so. You've done a degree in biology and management, and then you've been to a global stage when it comes to what it means to be a model. Where does this journey really start? Break it down for me, Noor.
Ooh, it's been a really wild roller coaster ride in terms of my career. I never thought I'd end up going to Miss Universe, for example. I was leading a very predictable life. I went to London for school, did my undergrad, my grad school there. I worked in venture capital for a couple of years. I was doing Series A deals, so investing in early stage technology businesses. But I always felt like I had a more creative side and didn't feel like that was being fulfilled in my role. So I quit my job and I went to drama school because I've kind of always wanted to be an actor. I just never thought it was a realistic career path, because I think being Pakistani, that's not really something that your parents encourage you to explore. My parents are, touch wood, very supportive of everything I do, but it's just not something I realistically thought I could do.
Yeah.
So going to drama school was really more of a validation exercise for me. I attended Lambda for a summer school. It's an excellent drama school, and that's kind of where I knew that this is the right path for me. So I was at a crossroads deciding on whether I would start my acting career in London, where I've been based for over 8 years, or to move back to Pakistan, where I felt, the TV and film industry is growing rapidly, and I feel like it's at this very important inflection point because the kind of content that Pakistan is creating is evolving. And I felt like it would be more fun to move back home and, build a base in my own hometown and then use that to kind of launch my career maybe abroad. So I moved back almost 2 years ago.
So Noor, when you say you moved back, were you living in Pakistan at some point?
Yes. So my parents are in the foreign service, so we grew up all over. So I'd spent a few years in my childhood in Pakistan, but not significant amounts of time. So it was the first time I would be moving back after 10 years of living abroad.
Do you remember those first few years in Pakistan of growing up here?
Yeah, of course I remember. I went to LGS for a couple years, Khaldunia. I don't know if the viewers know these schools' names. And then I actually moved back in 2010 for 3 years to finish my high school. So I did my A-levels from Head Start. So yeah, I'd say my significant teen years were in Islamabad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you remember how the city was back then and, how it is now? Do you think there's much that's changed within the city?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many more people and cars. You're from Islamabad, so you know this. It's so crowded now. When I was finishing high school here, there weren't that many cars on the road. I felt like it was maybe safer and more quiet. Again, I don't know if that's because I was 17, 18, and the kinds of things I would do were just different. And I was living in more of a bubble as a teenager versus now. So I would say Islamabad has become more populated, but the beauty of Islamabad is that it doesn't ever really change. And it's kind of nice. I feel like Islamabad is frozen in time, and it's comforting as someone who's lived abroad for so many years of her life to always come back and have that sense of familiarity with the city, which is, home for me. My parents would disagree entirely with what I'm saying because they say, you should have seen Islamabad in the 70s when we moved here. It was
Yeah.
empty. There were no
I
cars.
hear the same things.
Yeah, my parents
Yeah.
like Islamabad wo nahi raha. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think you said it's comforting, which is a good thing because, like the city remains the same, which is a good thing. But then
Yeah.
when you also come back after a few years of living abroad, you're just like, Acha, log wahin ke wahin hai. Like, nothing has changed and people aren't like, that mindset of the city. I think it's still very much, it needs to kind of like move from the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
But at the same time, much has changed. I do want to talk about something that you just mentioned where you said that, that was a time where maybe you felt more safer. As a woman in the city and in this country, and as a person that works in the country, do you feel unsafe?
Ooh, tricky question. As a woman, and I'm sure a lot of your female viewers would agree with me, like safety is just something that is constantly on my mind. It's not something that I can switch off. It's always, always switched on. I don't know if that's because I'm particularly paranoid and conscious of safety, given that I haven't grown up here. So I'm more on alert than maybe someone who has grown up here and is more relaxed and maybe more street smart than I am. But I would say there's like an underlying constant like fear of what's going to happen. So I think as a woman who's working here, like touch wood, I haven't had any sort of bad experiences, but I'm very conscientious about my safety. So before I take any work, like I verify everyone's identity, like, the location of where I'm going, like every detail does have to be like combed through very finely because I don't want to leave anything to chance. So I would say like in general, I feel safe, but it's because I take extra precautions.
And are those precautions like that checklist you've developed over time, or is that something you came with to the country and you were like, I'm just going to be so mindful of everything that nothing goes wrong?
I think it was already kind of inbuilt in me because I lived in South Africa for 3 years when I was younger with my parents, and crime is a very serious issue there. I mean, it was some of the best years of my life, but our house got robbed, our car got stolen, like we actually experienced a lot of it. So that I think growing up there kind of inbuilt these checklists in me anyway. So I've grown up being very conscious of safety. It's just something that's part of me now.
Just for other girls and young boys out there, I mean, what are some of the things that you are mindful of when operating within the country?
My personal information. So I don't get anything delivered to my home address. I don't want anyone to know what that is. I don't share my phone number unless I've verified who I'm sharing it with. I keep my doors locked at all times in my car. And I actually have a rape alarm. I have a pepper spray. I have these small gadgets in my purse. I've never, touch wood, had to use them, but they're just something I have on me. And I also don't travel very late at night on the road. Like I won't go out places if it's after say 10 p.m. It's just kind of, I just start feeling uncomfortable. And I don't drive because I feel like women here who drive can get bothered more easily. So it's something that I avoid as well.
Okay,
I'm like basically a hermit when I'm in Pakistan, but
fair enough. So Noor, let's just go back to you moving around the world and traveling with your parents as diplomats around the world. How is that? I mean, theoretically, that sounds a lot of fun, that you're getting to see the world, you're living in different places, but it also must be very hard, because you don't really belong anywhere. How did you feel?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot. I can't imagine it any other way, to be honest. So you say it's challenging, but also fun. For me, it's just normal. So when I meet someone and they say, oh, this is my friend from childhood, we've grown up together, I just don't know what that feels like. Genuinely, I can't relate at all, which can be kind of isolating because I do find it hard to connect with people because my life experience has been so unique. I don't think it's normal to grow up in 9 countries. And you're right in saying that, I don't truly feel like I belong in any one place. I feel like my identity is very evenly split across the countries I've lived in. So I feel a little bit South African, a little bit Romanian, a little bit British, a little bit Portuguese, mainly Pakistani, but it has these colors and flavors to it that I don't think a lot of people have. So I'd say, can't imagine it any other way. But what I will also say is that it's a huge privilege, and I'm very aware of that. So even as a kid, when you're uprooted every 3 years, which is what happened to me, and you have to make new friends, I had to learn new languages, adjust to new cultures. It is difficult and overwhelming at the time, but it's equipped me with an ability to adjust to so many different environments. And I think if I didn't have that skill set, I wouldn't have been able to study biology and then go to business school and then become a venture capital investor and then become a model and then go to Miss Universe. Like, I have like dabbled in so many different careers, and I feel like I've succeeded in a lot of my endeavors. I don't think I would have been able to do that if I wasn't forced to learn how to grow really fast from a very young age.
So within those 9 countries, like, a lot of jumping around and then a lot of like learning, unlearning, and relearning.
Yeah.
How are you sort of holding on to your Pakistaniat? How's that happening?
These are great questions. I think it's a journey for me. My parents are quite traditional. They're very proud Pakistanis. So the environment at home helped me hold on to my roots quite well. My parents spoke Urdu a lot at home, so that if they didn't, I wouldn't have been able to speak Urdu. Thank God they did that. My dad is Pathan, and I wish he had taught me Pashto, because that would have been very useful, but sadly not. I'd say, the use of the language at home, my parents were diplomats, so their job was to be the flag bearer of Pakistan abroad. So the environment at home was very much like, own your heritage, own your culture, but also learn from your surroundings, which is a really cool mix, I think, in terms of like parenting approach. And yeah, I just consumed a lot of music, films, in the general like South Asian sense. And also we would make it a point to visit back every year. So that helps a lot. Yeah.
And so just to understand, like all these 9 countries, did this happen in the 2000s, 1990s, or what was the decade where a lot of that movement was happening?
This was every 3 years of my entire life, almost.
Okay.
So yeah, basically diplomats in our country, they are relocated every 3 years. So we spent 6 years in the US, for example. That was the longest we stayed anywhere. And then when I turned 20, I was finally I was going to university, and I told my parents, well, now I'm in control of my life, so I'm not moving anywhere. I'm going to stay put in London. And I stayed there for almost 9 years, because I think it's the reverse, right? People tend to grow up in one place and then they want to start traveling and experiencing the world. For me, it was the opposite. I'd traveled so much, I was sick and tired of it, and I really wanted to kind of just have stability and predictability in my life. So I spent most of my 20s in London.
And so Noor, the last 20 years or more have seen a global rise in sort of like, the rise of right wing and racism and like, all these isms that are kind of like popping up, and people not being so accepting, and then also being so accepting of like there's these two ends, right? Like there's the right wing rise and the left side rise and all of that happening. All that moving around, were there times when you were kind of like faced with some sort of like a racist encounter or people not being nice to you, or was it like all embracing all the time?
Honestly, I don't think I've experienced that aspect of, the social texture and dynamic you're describing. I don't know if that's because I was lucky, or because I think like, my command of English is very strong, and I think that kind of removes that whole obstacle when you're abroad. So I actually have been fortunate enough not to experience that. And, I lived in a lot of very different places with a lot of these kinds of dynamics. So I don't know if it's because of maybe the school I was attending, the friends I kept. I think growing up in international school anyway, you're around a bunch of kids who are in the same boat. They're from a different country. They're living as foreigners abroad. Yeah. There's a shared kind of community and feeling of, we're not from here, let's learn about each other and make it work. So I would say no.
No.
And I'd say, I spent most of my 20s in London, and I think London is like a melting pot of just so many different cultures. Yeah. So I sometimes forgot I was in the UK. Very few of my friends were even British. So it was just so mixed. So I think when you're in these kinds of extreme, like international environments, usually that removes that element.
Fair enough. So Noor, going back to, then you deciding that you want to be in one place and you want to kind of like be put in one place, and you decided London would be it. Is that where you started studying your biology? Was it a bachelor's that you did, or how did that happen? Where was that interest coming from?
Actually, it's a funny story. I didn't plan on moving to London. I took a gap year after I graduated from Head Start, and I was traveling in Southeast Asia. And then I enrolled at McGill University. So I was actually in Montreal. And then I didn't love it. So I was applying to schools in the UK as a kind of backup plan. And I got into Imperial, and it was really good for my program. So it was more a desire to change schools than really picking that specific city. And it was an interesting choice because I think London is a very testing and trying city to move to as a young adult, navigating, higher education and newfound responsibilities, because you're in a very intense city versus maybe people who attend liberal arts colleges in the US in student towns. That's much more of like a bubble, and you're kind of closed off from the real world while you grow up. Whereas in London, you're just thrown into the real world off the bat. So I'd say it's a challenging city to, spend all of your 20s in, but I can't imagine doing it any other way. I love London.
Yeah. And so the parents were diplomats and they were traveling around the world. Was there a desire to ever follow suit and also become a diplomat, or?
Absolutely not. I told my dad, he's like, you should take the CSS exam.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate and recognize that it's extremely competitive and prestigious and attracts top talent in the country, because our upbringing was so chaotic and difficult, I had no desire to put myself through that again. I think it's the travel that would really deter me from doing that career.
Yeah. And then again, you decided to pursue biology, which is a bit of a difficult choice to make. Was that something you were just interested in, or did you want to become like a doctor or something? Or
why do you say it's a difficult choice?
I mean, I tried doing sciences in A levels, and I was like, I absolutely cannot do this.
Okay, yeah, it's not for everyone.
No.
I found biology to be the easiest subject in school, and that's actually why I pursued it for my bachelor's. Again, like I said, I truly wanted to be an actor my whole life. So if I could go back, I would go to drama school for undergrad. But I didn't know what to do when I was 18. And also, I think the way that we've structured education is maybe not the most logical. I don't think teenagers are best suited to decide what to do with the rest of their life at that age. I think the degree you do is a little bit arbitrary. I realize that now that I'm 30 and I've had multiple careers. I think university is more a stamp of approval, where you prove to potential employers that, I can study, I can manage things, I can focus, and I'm hardworking. And the subject matter is really, I think, becoming irrelevant. I say this, but I absolutely love what I studied, and I think I was inspired to explore the natural sciences, having grown up in South Africa and visiting so many safari parks. I became obsessed with like David Attenborough documentaries, and I just wanted to study something I enjoyed learning about. I didn't really think about my career, and again, like that's something that I think schools should double down on when it comes to career counseling and helping young students choose certain subjects that are aligned to their interests and their skills.
So then the degree happened, and then what happens next?
Like most people in their early 20s, like the degree happened and I had no idea what to do with my life.
Yeah.
So I did like an internship at KPMG in Dubai. And, my sister worked in management consulting. So I was like, maybe I'll do the same thing. But what I decided to do in the end was go to London Business School because I wanted to marry the science degree with a business degree because I thought that would create a lot more exit opportunities for me professionally. And it was a great decision. LBS was a very special time and kind of told me about how the world works, not just for finance and business, but just so many different subjects lumped into a 1-year intensive program. Yeah, and I met amazing people who are all doing wonderful things with their careers now. So I think it's more of an access to a very exciting network of alumni.
So Noor was having this wonderful time in the UK, in London, and then she decides to move back to Pakistan.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think I'm a bit of a dreamer, and I found myself going to work every day and just not feeling obsessed with it. And I was happy. I wasn't happy, actually. I was more content. And I don't know, I just always felt like I was meant to do something creative. So I think when these feelings compound over time enough, you reach this point where you don't really have a choice. I didn't feel like I had a choice. I felt like I just had to try something different. I felt like I was on the absolute wrong path in life. And it's a very heavy feeling. And it was a very scary decision because I worked extremely hard to build that career from scratch. So I just left everything, and I figured I'll go to drama school to test the waters. And that was a great decision because it confirmed that, yes, I do want to pursue acting for real, but it's very terrifying. So I moved back to Pakistan because, like I said earlier, I think that it's a great time to be an actor in Pakistan. And also, I think that there are just so many important stories in this country that have yet to be told to the world. There are a few wonderful, projects that have come out of here, and we have amazing talent, but I feel like there needs to be a stronger bridge in communicating and translating our talent abroad. And I really want to champion that effort. So I think coming back and again, like representing Pakistan at Miss Universe internationally is the kind of work I want to do, where I'm telling the world, like, this is who we are, and maybe change the stereotype that has been placed on us into something more positive.
So did you have a plan when you moved back? Like, did you know how you were going to get into acting, modeling, or anything of the sort?
I had like a tiny thread towards a plan. A friend of mine told me about someone who represents talent here, and I got in touch with her before making the move, and I was in conversation with her beforehand. So I did feel like if I moved back, I had a manager who would launch my career here. So if I didn't have that, I think it would be even scarier. But I did move here with some sort of plan.
Yeah. And initially, was there some sort of apprehension from the family, or were they happy with the move? How did they react?
I think the initial reaction was shock and worry, because my parents have worked very hard to, put me through the schools that I've been to and give me the opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to have. Because I think their vision for their children was a certain type of career that guarantees success. They're very ambitious, and they wanted their kids to be very ambitious. So I think they were just concerned that all of their effort and my effort might go to waste because I was just flipping a 180. But then over time, I think they just saw how much happier I was on a day-to-day. So they have been very supportive. Yeah, it was a bit rocky at first. And then once they saw how quickly I was progressing, they were very pleased.
So did you start with modeling, or where did the journey start when you did move back? Was it like shoots, or what was happening?
Yeah, so I signed with an excellent manager, Phoebe Haroon, in Karachi, and her actually game plan was, let's approach the fashion sphere first. I already had a portfolio from London, so that was kind of lower hanging fruit. And then I think my first campaign was with Sania Maskatia, and then the second one was Farah Talib Aziz. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're like amazing brands to work with, kind of, as good as it gets. And I was very fortunate to book them on my first weekend. So after that, it was just like the phone just kept ringing, and the fashion thing just kind of blew up. And I had no free time anymore to even think about acting. Yeah. And so we kind of started off with fashion, and that's how I was looped into the Miss Universe world. So I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't even know that we
Let's
participated.
talk about it. How did that happen, Noor? I mean, because I mean, growing up in Pakistan, and we've kind of always had this like a perception of what Miss Universe is, and then B, it's the idea that no, that's something that we don't do. So let's just start with what it is. What is Miss Universe?
Miss Universe is a beauty pageant, which is arguably the best in class. And it crowns a winner from various countries. Last year I participated, there were 130 countries. So each country has a pageant. They crown one winner, and that woman represents her entire country at the finals every year. And there's a process of elimination, and in the end they crown one girl to be Miss Universe. And I guess the objective is to have someone represent like women abroad, like all over the world, and also work on different social causes she's passionate about, have some kind of positive impact in the world.
So, Noor, before I get into the journey on how one kind of gets themselves into being a part of the pageant, the entire sort of these sort of pageants are heavily also criticized for various things.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that people kind of speak about. It's objectifying women, and all those different arguments that take place. How do you see it, and how do you defend that being on the other side?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's so many platforms that exist in the world, right? You have like social media, you have television, you have all these ways that people can expose their talent or talk about something they care about. Beauty pageants, I wasn't very familiar with them before I started my journey in Miss Universe either. And I think it's truly what you make out of it. You can, if you're a contestant, you can go there, you can wear pretty gowns, and you can do a beautiful walk on the runway. And that can be your contribution and the glam of it all. Or you can go there and yes, beauty is an element to it, but you can also very heavily double down on, I want to work on XYZ social causes, and I want to do actual work with it. And you can see that in some of the people who have won in the past and the kind of work they've done. So I feel like it's kind of what you make of it, right? You could argue, like, I'm very passionate about television. Like, I love watching films, and I want to be a part of making them because I believe that film is an excellent medium through which you can change the world. You can change people's opinions, perspectives. It's a very powerful tool if used correctly. You also have films that are completely, just kind of like time pass in the background, not educational, not impactful. So it's really like there are art forms, and how you use that art form as a tool to impact change is on you. That's how I feel about it. So I think it really depends on what your goal is as a contestant. My goal was I don't know, Pakistan hasn't really participated in beauty pageants, and I just want to put our name on the map a little bit, and I want to do it with a bang. I don't want us to miss out on these opportunities to share and showcase our culture, our fashion, our language, our traditions. So any opportunity to do that, I'm going to jump on it. That was my objective.
Right. And just to understand, why are we not participating? Now we are. Now things are, I think as of the last 2 years, things are kind of different. But before that, why the negative sort of perception of the pageant?
Well, I think how it works is Miss Universe, they have franchises that people bid for and buy, I think. I'm not exactly sure how that system works, but essentially someone has to go and buy the franchise for the country and then host the pageant here. And I think the reason we've never had that done is because there isn't an appetite in Pakistan to go send a girl who competes there. I think that if you unpack that, the reason is because, our culture is very much about, especially towards women and their beauty. It's not something that they're encouraged to display or expose. It's actually considered to be more valued if you keep it hidden and reserved and selective with who you share it with. It's not something to display on a stage. So I think the whole concept of beauty here is is much more hidden, and there's a sacred element to that for sure. But it doesn't encourage our participation in beauty pageants. But you could flip it on its head, and you could say, the world needs to know that we exist, and we have talent, we have beauty, we have culture, and we should channel that. I think there's a lot of hesitation to do it. So even I received quite a fair bit of backlash because a lot of people don't want Pakistan to be represented. And that was a huge consideration for me even applying. I thought to myself, do I want to expose myself to all this criticism? Because I knew I was going to receive it. But I felt like in the long run, I think it was worthwhile. And I think there's more positive change that comes from it as opposed to us abstaining and not participating.
And what's the sort of criticism that you did receive? Like, what were people saying at that time?
Well, actually, for me particularly, a lot of it was around the fact that I haven't grown up here, so I might not be the most representative woman to wear the sash, and wear Pakistan on my chest. So, which touches on a very sensitive subject for me personally, because like we discussed earlier, my identity as a Pakistani is something that I've had to figure out on my own. Like, I didn't choose to be raised in 4 continents. It's just that those were my circumstances. And you even asked me, how did you connect to your Pakistani heritage and identity? Like, that is something I have to actively work on. That is something that people who are from here and grow up here don't even think about. No. So it's a huge honor for me to have been the woman to represent Pakistan, because I finally got to truly claim my identity as a national. Yeah.
And so, Noor, just for anyone that's watching and wants to kind of take down the same route, what's the process? How did it work for you? How did you apply and then become a part of the process?
I met last year's winner at a fashion shoot. So it was very circumstantial for me. I genuinely didn't even know that this was a thing and that there were applications or deadlines. So I got very lucky. I literally applied on the last day. But for anyone else who's more prepared and organized than I was, there's an Instagram page. You can follow it. They submit all of the information there, like application link. You'll have interviews with the franchise owners, and then you compete at the finals for the pageant, the nationals.
And so what does the application look like? Is it just like you submitting your portfolio, or?
No, it's quite comprehensive. There was an essay you write about why you want to participate and why you'd be a good choice. So it took me many, many hours to write that. Yeah.
And so just so I understand the process correctly, it starts with Miss Universe Pakistan.
Yes.
So you're crowned the winner from Pakistan.
Yeah.
And then you go on to compete on the global
yes,
stage.
That's correct.
So how is it with the Pakistan aspect of it? Were there many applicants for that process, many women wanting to be a part of it?
I'm not privy to that information, actually. I'm not sure how many people applied. But I do know that from the people that applied, they cut it down to 21 finalists last year. And then from that, 10 of us were selected to go and actually compete at the pageant. Yeah.
And so you won that.
Yes.
What are some of the sort of, I don't even know if it's the right word, but competitions that happen in order to win that first round, the Pakistan round of it?
It boils down to 3 rounds, essentially. You have a closed door interview. So everything is filmed except for this interview, where you meet all the judges and they ask you a host of questions. Some are intellectually challenging, some are personal, some are related to your goals and your career ambitions. They want to get a sense of who you are and how it would be to work with you, because it's a job. It's not just a title. It's a full-time job, and there are a lot of responsibilities attached to it. So it's essentially a job interview. So that's number one. And then you have the actual show, in which you have a national costume round. We didn't have that for Pakistan last year, but there are national costume rounds where you wear something traditional, you walk the runway. Then you have the swimsuit round, and that's again a runway. And then you have an evening gown. And each of these runway shows has a different style and feel to it. And for the finals, you train very, very hard for that.
Yeah, so my next question was actually about the training. What's the sort of pre-work that goes into these shows? Because a lot of people are like, what's the big deal? I mean, it's just runway shows. They're just getting on the ramp and walking. So I want you to kind of
Who are those people? I need to speak with them.
I mean, there's a lot of like social
Yeah.
media online chatter,
Yeah,
and when I was
yeah.
researching, I mean, I read a lot of comments. So I want to understand, and I want you to debug that narrative and kind of explain to us like what goes on behind all of that one walk that takes place.
Yeah. So yes, like I said, there's a show, right? It boils down to a show. Even like the finals last year were in Mexico, and we have, your national costume, swimsuit, evening gown rounds. But there's a lot of things that happened before that. We were in Mexico for 3.5 weeks roughly. And while you're at Miss Universe, there are a lot of events that take place, and you're kind of being judged the entire time because the team wants to assess what you're like in a lot of different, scenarios. So they'll tour you around Mexico. They'll make you interact with other contestants. They want to get a real sense of who you are.
Yeah.
Because like I said, Miss Universe, the winner is in a 1-year contract. It's a job. So preparing for the pageant is not just preparing for the show, it's preparing for the entire time you're spending there with 130 women. So, you train across doing your own hair and makeup. Like you have to do your own, which is something am not very good. I don't really wear a lot of makeup. So you have to do your own, and you're in full hair and makeup all day, every day. And it's not casual. It's very glamorous. So that's a whole other training. A lot of people train on their speaking ability. Like I said, there's a closed door interview. So you want to practice how to answer tricky questions in front of judges, get your story straight, be articulate and eloquent. There's, of course, the main training, which is walk training. We call it pasarela. And that is probably the most rigorous component, or it was for me, because I had absolutely no experience doing it. And people may see a runway walk, but it's actually physically very demanding because it's not a natural way you're walking. There, your shoulders are restructured, your hips are restructured, and you're wearing 6-inch heels. So it is quite difficult. And women will spend months, even years, perfecting that. Because like you said, it's a very short show. You have maybe 10, 20 seconds on stage, and those 20 seconds can change your life completely. So you want to get every millisecond right. So I'd say pasarela is the biggest chunk of training, or at least was for me. Then there's a million things you do to prepare. Like I worked with an excellent stylist, Zara Sarfraz, and we put together my whole wardrobe, my gowns, my costume. Like there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah.
And so once you win the Pakistan, you become Miss Universe Pakistan, you come back, and then are you like automatically eligible to be a part of the Miss Universe sort of contest that takes place?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the whole purpose of that competition taking place is to select someone from Pakistan.
Right. And in that part of it, does the state come in and kind of like sponsor the entire journey and help you go to the final rounds of it? Or is it self-financed, or do you have sponsors, or how does that work?
I was completely self-financed. So I think it depends. For example, there are countries where pageantry is a very like massive industry, and there's a lot of heavy sponsorship. Those countries have been in this game for like decades.
Yeah.
Pakistan is 2 years in. So no, I paid for everything myself, which is not something I was aware of going into this. It is a huge financial undertaking. So, if you're applying from a country like, for example, Thailand or Philippines, or these kind of pageant powerhouses, there is extensive funding, but there is none whatsoever here. So that is something that girls who are considering this should really take into consideration. Yeah.
And so then once you kind of like went through the entire process, you came back to Pakistan. Was there a shift in the treatment of people towards you? So, before you went and after you had been to Miss Universe, did people treat you any differently?
I think as soon as I won my title, I I'm fortunate enough to have received a lot of support and love and well wishes, and that has pretty much continued throughout my year, having this title. And again, I also work as a full-time model, so a lot of who I'm around are people from the fashion industry, and they're probably most invested in this entire journey because I think it just speaks to their line of work most. So I'd say the sentiment has been very positive, and I would say even more so after coming home because getting to that stage is a huge challenge. So I think everyone I've interacted with is just very like happy and proud and
So Noor, I also want to understand, there's so much going on when you're a part of the process, before that, after that, and during that. How are you kind of like maintaining your personal life with it? Is there any sort of maintenance that goes on, or do you just have to sideline it for a while?
Before I got to Mexico, I don't think I've ever been more stressed and tired in my entire life.
And mind you, you've done bio for your degree.
Bio was a
A walk in the
breeze.
park.
Honestly, nothing compares. Not the GMAT, not my degrees, absolutely nothing. Because it was particularly difficult for me. I had no support. So I was paying for everything. I was working full time, and my work means flying to Lahore, to Karachi, nonstop every week. And while doing that, I had to get my own trainer. I was doing sessions with him on Zoom, online, till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., hardly sleeping because I'd go to work the next day. Then I'm putting together my wardrobe. I'm getting gowns fitted from different cities. Like it was a complete chaos. So personal life, I don't even think I hung out with a friend for months. I had no time. Yeah. And, I'd say like taking care of myself after the pageant, like it's taken a couple of months. It's just so physically grueling because once you're there, you also hardly have time to sleep.
Yeah.
It's very rigorous. So going into it, I didn't know what to expect. And, I wish I had a little bit of guidance actually on what to expect. So personal life just took a complete pause. And, that's kind of something that I already set myself up for mentally when I moved to Pakistan. Like all my friends, my whole life was in London. And I decided to put all of that on pause when I moved here. So personal life is a little bit low priority for me. Well, it was for the last year and a half. And work was really taking the priority.
Right. And I also want to understand, and this is of course for people to get a sense what all goes on the fitness end of things of someone that's aspiring to be a part of the modeling industry or aspiring to actually go on and become a part of the pageant.
As a model, I'd say like the expectations of me in, for example, the London market versus Pakistan market are entirely different. I think being a model in London means, yes, fitness is like high priority. You have to take care of yourself. Also, I think the type of clothes you're wearing often require you. It's a different, form and fit. In Pakistan, I feel like it's much more body inclusive. So I actually haven't really had to think about that much over here. Not to say that that's not important to me. Fitness is extremely important to me, but I don't feel like it's tied to my job at all in Pakistan. And I think a lot of models will speak to that as well. So I think the standards here are very different, right? Like for example, in London, it's very hard to get signed as a model unless you meet a certain height criteria. Whereas in Pakistan, I think the majority of our models are much shorter than me. So there is a lot more inclusivity here, which is kind of nice and refreshing.
Yeah.
But for Miss Universe, I would love to say that I was working out intensively, but I genuinely had no time. So fitness also became low priority because I just had too much to get done. But in the process of being so busy, you end up being so active that you kind of don't have to work out. But that I didn't do it the right way. I would say if you're going to any pageant, you need to be in top form because once you're there, it is very physically demanding. So I would sleep a lot before going there. I would make sure you're in the best shape of your life. You're eating very well before you get there because once you get there, it's kind of just crazy hours and a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And Noor, is the process within the country becoming more streamlined? Is there a structure now? Because you were the second one to go out of here, and I suppose there will now be a third one this year. So is it becoming more of like a structured approach to the overall pageant?
My understanding is the structure has remained the same from last year to this, like the year I applied and this year. So it's the same kind of like apply through their links online, do the interviews, and they host our pageant in the Maldives. So I think it's pretty much the same structure.
Okay, fair enough. Noor, I also want to kind of change the course of our conversation a little bit and understand, the industry a little bit. How is the fashion industry for women? Is it a safe environment? Is it a inclusive environment? Or what are some of the problems that you do notice, if not feel?
I think so. I joined in the beginning of 2024. And from what I hear, that was like things have gotten really good since I joined. It's more of a recent development. Yes, I feel very safe at work, and the people I work with are typically lovely, and the environment is very friendly, inclusive, and also kind of informal, which can be good and bad, because it means that there's a kind of relaxed environment. The way that you're booked for shoots is, WhatsApp text. It's very informal versus London, where everything is very structured and very regulated. So there's that. But I'd say, yeah, I feel very safe, and I feel like the community is filled with people who are not only talented as models or makeup artists or photographers or the host of talent we have, but they're also very well educated, very well traveled. It's a very vibrant community of people who are very open-minded, and it's opened my eyes to a new world in Pakistan I didn't know existed. So I genuinely love my job.
Amazing.
And I didn't know what to expect coming into it, and to my surprise, safety is not at all an issue at work.
Amazing. Noor, are you a feminist?
How would you describe a feminist?
I think someone that just believes in equality and equality of opportunity, and just like fair and equal treatment of all genders.
Well, then yes, of course I am. Yes.
Right. And do you feel like it is a misunderstood sort of idea?
I think that when you say like I'm a feminist, a lot of people can get uncomfortable because, yeah, I think there's an intensity attached to that word, which definitely needs to change. That conversation needs to be opened and understood and unpacked. And yeah, I think you're right in saying like there can be negative connotations to it, but that's the whole problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Noor, I also see on your social media that you traveled quite a lot. Is that something that you are just doing for fun, or is there something, is it important to you?
It's extremely important to me. A lot of why I do what I do is to be able to see the world. And travel is just my way of learning. And it's also the best way for me to take time off work and meet my friends, most of who don't live in Pakistan. So it's my way of kind of meeting them in the middle and also seeing new countries along the way. Yeah.
And do you think travel kind of has benefits other than just seeing new places?
Of course.
Yeah.
As someone who's grown up in so many places, I think that without travel, like how do you keep an open mind? How do you embrace new friendships, new relationships, new cultures? How do we grow as a species if we aren't exchanging ideas, right? The world has become very global. You can open your phone and learn about any culture, any language, pretty much anything you want. But it's another thing to actually physically go and immerse yourself in it. It requires you to step out of your comfort zone, and it can be very uncomfortable sometimes, but it's so worth it because I think it just enriches our experience as human beings. And I think it's important to remember that we're human beings. We're human beings first, and then we are Pakistani, and then we are Muslim, and all these subcategories of identities that we have created. At the end of the day, people are all pretty much, I think, the same. And it's important to remember that and to connect with people who aren't maybe don't look like you, don't speak like you, or even have the same value system as you, but that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how we improve.
Yeah, completely agreed. Noor, I want to understand, and we briefly touched upon the television industry. You kind of spoke about your interest in films and I suppose like producing films, but also acting in films. Um,
I could never produce a film.
Oh,
I meant acting, yes.
acting. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Do you think that the Pakistani film industry, the Pakistani drama industry, is being responsible today?
What do you mean by that?
Are they putting out the right sort of narratives? Are they putting out the right sort of stories? Is it responsible storytelling?
I think that there has been good work done to expand the type of storytelling we have and grow it, mature it, evolve it. But I think, again, it's kind of like the pushback I received on going to Miss Universe, right? Anytime we present a new idea, something uncomfortable or unfamiliar, there's going to be resistance. And I think that film is a very important medium through which we can open people's minds to new concepts. And I think that it's a bit of a push and pull situation, right? Like the film industry, you could argue, has a responsibility to push out new, interesting ideas to our society, which will then help our society evolve. But who's gonna, like, once they do that, there's gonna be pushback. I don't know if that makes them money. At the end of the day, film is also a business, right? So I think if you're making a movie in Pakistan, you're a little stuck because you have to make something that sells, but you also want to do something that is true to the art form. So I don't think I'm one to say whether or not they're being responsible or not, but I think that I've seen enough work that is so promising and very different that, like, that's part of the reason why I decided to move back. So I think we have ways to go.
But is the reason that I'm asking that question is because I have heard and I want to know more. I don't watch the Pakistani dramas, and I know I should. But are they sort of projecting and putting out narratives that are sort of important for the society? Because we have a big following and we have a big audience for these dramas, and they are getting impacted by them.
Yeah.
So I want to understand, the stories that are coming out. Are they still revolving around the family drama that's happening, and just those 4 stories on repeat, or are they thinking beyond that now?
I mean, there's definitely suggestions I can make and recommendations I can give you on things to watch, because there are definitely pieces that go beyond the 4 stereotypical categories that we see very often. So yes, I do think that there is new work like that being done. Maybe not as much as I'd like, but like change takes time, and there has to be a level of patience with that as well.
And so you, as a budding actor, what sort of responsibility do you think you have when you're choosing a script or signing up for a drama or signing up with a brand for a shoot, with that kind of stuff? Are you responsible in terms of who you're working with and who you're signing up with and what the story is and that kind of stuff? Is that something that you're mindful of?
Yes, of course, because the brands I collaborate with, the roles I want to portray, they all it's an amalgamation of my own personal identity. So of course I'm very conscious and selective about that. And yeah, I think that the kind of roles that I would want to portray, I haven't come across yet. But I think in time, hopefully something will work out. But I want to help tell stories that matter, at least to me. And I think as a woman, there are many more stories that branch beyond just love and romance, which I think is the majority of the types of roles that women are portraying right now. So, I want to tell a story about female entrepreneurship, or women in sports, women in politics, or even take a story from history, our history, and share female leaders whose stories haven't been really portrayed yet. So I think I'm going to be very selective about that. Yes.
So Noor, lastly, I just want to understand and know what's coming next for Noor. What's happening?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. My whole objective of coming to Pakistan was to start my career as a maybe an artist, a creative artist, and then use some kind of work experience that I have in Pakistan and translate it abroad. So I think I'm at a crossroads right now where I'm going to be in transition between moving out of Pakistan and finding my next kind of base, potentially London, potentially New York City, and yeah, time will tell.
Thank you so much, Noor, for doing this. This was wonderful, and thank you for being at Pakistan Observer.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great chatting.
Thank you.